and welcome back to another review. Now, about today's review, I decided some weeks ago that I was going to get some movies off my watch list, embrace the opportunity that has been provided to me by the lack of new releases. That and lack of income. And so I was like really gonna finally take the opportunity to watch the movies off my to watch list, but because it's Women's History Month still, I wanted to focus on movies on that list that were directed by women. Now, unfortunately, I'd been doing a lot of multitasking with the diet that I was doing. It was actually really hard to dedicate time to stop and sit and watch a movie and then take a couple hours to review it and all that stuff, because I had to pretty much get up every 2 hours to prepare my food, and I just didn't, or work out, and I didn't have the time, and it was quite draining, so I didn't end up watching as many as I liked or would like to off that list. I hope I can get in a couple more before the month ends, but I have managed to watch a couple, so we're going to talk about the first one that I ticked off the list, and that is Palm Beach. I guess I don't have anything else to say, so I guess I'll just start the review. Palm Beach is a 2019 Australian comedy drama film directed by Rachel Ward from a screenplay by Joanna Murray Smith. It follows a group of lifelong friends who gather for a reunion to celebrate one of their friends' birthday at his home in Palm Beach, Sydney. I'm finding Australian film titles are educational for me. Prior to watching Top End Wedding, I didn't even know the term Top End or that the Tiwi Islands existed, and now thanks to this film, I've learned there's a Palm Beach in Australia, not just in the US. Don't blame me for sucking at Australian geography. They only taught us states and capitals and then called it a day. They preferred to teach us about other countries, okay? Now, before I get into my thoughts and feelings about the film, I want to address how amazed and impressed I was while watching the end credits for this film. No, I'm not usually someone who bothers with the end credits, but if you're playing a catchy song or the movie is still going, I'm gonna stick around. So I got to notice something wonderful. So many members of the crew who worked on this film were women. We already know it was directed by a woman, and the screenplay was by a woman, and one of the producers was a woman, but it goes further. Cinematography by Bonnie Elliott, casting by Kirsty McGregor, production design by Melinda Doring, art direction by Sophie Nash, costume design by Joanna May Park, makeup department, all women, second unit assistant director, Hannah DeGeorge, art department, all women, casting associate, Gemma Brown, costume and wardrobe, 4 out of 5 involved were women, music supervisor, Jennifer Taunton, and I could go on. I don't think I've ever in my life seen so many women credited as being involved in the making of a film. In fact, over half of the senior crew on this film were women. Seeing this and realizing this astonishing fact was absolutely incredible and made me all the happier that this was the first film I selected to watch in my Women Director Spotlight for Women's History Month. Overall, I liked the point of the film, and it wasn't until it was over that I appreciated its very blunt and honest form of storytelling. While this is far more of a drama than a comedy, I felt its approach was simply to be a film talking about very real dynamics and life issues occurring in the lives of our characters, many of which are things that happen in the real world. The film doesn't waste time with nuances or exposition, it addresses things as they would occur in real life. In the real world, we don't always have time to weigh everything. We don't get second or third acts to resolve everything. You have to deal with it at the moment, and as you're dealing with it, life around you continues to move forward, and around you are other people with their own problems. The entire cast doesn't halt to deal with everyone's issues. They have to deal with it themselves like adults, and I love that. It's so honest and realistic and rather fresh, as I've not seen many films take this approach. Brian Brown plays Frank, a man living a good retired life and about to have a birthday. But life isn't all that great. He's secretly battling depression, and like many men in life, he is doing it quietly and alone. He's reflecting on his regrets and shutting out the ones who love him, which is exacerbating his condition and driving a wedge between his family. It's only when tragedy strikes that he wakes up to how lucky he truly is and lets his family in. Frank is married to Charlotte, played by Greta Scacchi, a woman who is a cancer survivor now trying to enjoy and live her life, but instead is forced to confront mistakes from the past that threaten her new lease on life. All she wants is for her family to be happy and her husband and her to reconnect, but it takes some hurdles before they get there. Richard E. Grant, who I absolutely adore, plays Billy, a musician who now makes jingles to pay the bills. He is a man so unhappy with how his life turned out that he takes everything around him for granted and takes his self-loathing and misery out on his loving, supportive wife, Ava, played by Heather Mitchell. Ava loves her husband but has her own problems. She's an actress who has just hit 60 and is learning the acting world is a scary and new place for women her age, and is trying to deal with the emotions of being up for a role of playing a grandmother. Adding insult to injury, the woman playing her daughter is only 10 years her junior. While confronting whether she go for the part or not, she decides she's done being her husband's emotional boxing bag and walks out, giving him a chance to realize he needs to shape up or lose the best thing in his life. No waiting months, it's now or never. Sam Neill plays Leo, a man who is plagued with a need to find out the paternity of a mistake made years ago. Instead of focusing on the family he has and has made, he is seeking a new family at the risk of others' happiness in a vain attempt to fill a void in his life. He too realizes the error of his ways and that his wants and needs were misguided. His wife Bridget is played by Jacqueline McKenzie, and she's a simple woman who is sitting on the sidelines, waiting and hoping for her husband to realize what a good life he has and how needed he is. Holly, played by Claire Vanderboom, is a young woman who has grown up around all these people, as her mother was a singer in the band they all had together. Her mother passed away in her youth, and so she was raised by all these people. While she's not family by blood, this is her adopted family, and you can see how deeply she loves these people who together helped raise her and have always been there for her and helped keep her mother alive. Holly is dating Doug, played by Aaron Jeffrey. Doug is a sweet, chivalrous countryman who is madly in love with Holly and wants a life with her, and while he wants a life with her, she pushes him away, knowing there's one thing he wants she can't give him. When she finally opens up to him, we see love can overcome any obstacle. Matilda Brown and Charlie Vickers play Ella and Dan, Frank and Charlotte's children. Ella, the successful medical school graduate who benefits from the love and support from her parents and embraces their spirited nature, where Dan is a disappointment to his father for reasons he's never understood. Dan spends his time hoping to win his father's love and support, and in the end manages to do just that when his father realizes how much his son means to him and how much he fears losing him. All of these characters go through very real human issues. They don't all have time to sit down and gossip and pour out their hearts and feelings because they have lives to live and they're not young anymore. They don't have the luxury of time to spare. They deal with their problems now. It's a great reflection on how the young generation is affected by the older generation and how the older generation can learn from the new one. I loved seeing a film depict the realities of life at 50 this way, but that's not to say the film isn't without its cons. The beautiful Palm Beach backdrop was not enough to keep the film engaging. The film itself suffers from a painfully slow pace and spends far too much of its time with prolonged scenes with no dialogue. While I love a good soundtrack, and this film does have a good one, this film spends more time depicting characters staring far off into the distance, reflecting and debating over life choices while the film's soundtrack plays, than ever actually just telling its story or letting its characters do anything engaging or anything to move the story forward. While many films have moments like this film had one every few minutes, and after the first two it was getting ridiculous and annoying, and I was just begging for the film to stop and tell the damn story. I wanted to hear the dialogue and see more of their lives in action instead of 3 minutes of them promoting the soundtrack every chance they could. There is a lot to admire about this film: performances, casting, location, the central story of each character, and overall purpose of the film, but it lost its way and didn't give the actors enough of a chance to showcase their characters or their talents. Again, mostly because it kept drifting off into daydream land to play another catchy song. Had they done this less, the film would have had more of an impact, and it might not have taken me 3 days to actually finish watching. I love what it was going for, but I don't feel it nailed the execution. And there you have my thoughts on Palm Beach, which again, I didn't know we had a Palm Beach. But having seen it in this film, it looks bloody beautiful. I'd go visit there, you know, if we could travel between states right now, which we can't. We can't do that. No, we cannot. Yeah, I remember this coming out at the cinema last year, and I did consider going. I considered going with my mom. I said, hey, do you want to come see this movie with me? And she went, nah, I don't think so. I'm like, well, if you don't want to go, then I'm not going to put in the effort. And I forgot all about it. And then I think I wrote it down, or I came across it the other day. I'm like, I remember that movie. And so was the first one I knocked off. I think the reason I picked this one to watch first in my female directors list is because it's Australian. And I've said this in other reviews I've done of Australian films in recent years, like by recent I mean the last 2 years, where I've had this aversion to Australian films of my own country. Because anything like outside of like the 90s, maybe early 2000s, mostly just the 90s, anything past that, I hated. I was hating everything I was saying, and I was just always watching them going, stop what you're doing! But in the last couple of years, I've started watching Australian films, and I've really been loving what they're doing. I think there are some beautiful stories, and I've seen a couple that have been directed by women. The best one that I've watched in recent years was directed by Rachel Griffiths last year, and that was Ride Like a Girl, which was absolutely incredible. You can check out my review of that film. So, I don't know, Australian female directors, they know what they're doing. They've got something good going, and I think I've actually seen, of the Australian films I've watched in recent years, I think I've watched more directed by either women and Aborigines than I have white men. And I gotta say, that's pretty damn awesome. I'm like, well done, Australia. You go. But yeah, if you have heard of this film or seen this film, please comment down below. Tell me what you thought about it. If you haven't, tell me if anything about what I've said has appealed to you. If not, well, at least you watched this, so I guess there's that. There is nothing more for me to say today. Thank you, as always, to my amazing patrons. I know I'm still thanking you, even though I paused the billing cycle to reflect our current situation on Earth right now. I don't feel that it's appropriate to be charging people anything when we should really be trying to help each other. But nevertheless, I'm going to keep thanking you and putting your names at the end of my videos because, well, that's basically what you signed up for originally, so it's the least I could do. So thank you to everybody so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!